I should have seen it coming when Monica's mother called me the help at the spring gala. My name's Edward Castillo, 32 years old, and I'd built myself up from nothing in Atlanta's tech scene. 3 years ago, I met Monica Fisher at a coffee shop on Peachtree Street. She was arguing with a barista over almond milk, and something about her fire drew me in. Stupid, right? Monica was beautiful, caramel skin, natural curls, and eyes that could make you forget your own name. We clicked instantly. She worked in marketing at her family's luxury hotel chain, Fisher Hospitality Group. 5 properties across the southeast, worth about $47 million on paper. Her father, Jonathan Fisher, ran it like a kingdom, and her mother Teresa treated their Buckhead mansion like a throne room. I remember our first date at Bones Restaurant. Monica ordered the most expensive wine without looking at the price. Daddy always says if you have to ask, you can't afford it, she laughed. I smiled and paid the $300 bill without flinching. What she didn't know was that I could have bought the entire restaurant in cash. See, I'm what you'd call a silent partner in the tech world. Started coding at 15 in my grandmother's basement in College Park. Built 3 apps before I was 25. Sold one to Google for $18 million. The other 2 generated passive income that let me invest quietly. Very quietly. Nobody knew Edward Castillo, the barista's grandson, was Edward Castillo, the multimillionaire investor. I kept it that way intentionally. Grew up watching my grandmother clean rich people's houses, watching them treat her like furniture. I learned early, show people money, and you'll never know who really loves you. 6 months into dating Monica, I met her family officially. The Fisher estate sat on 3 acres in Buckhead, with marble columns that screamed new money trying to look old. Jonathan answered the door in a cashmere sweater, looking me up and down like I was something stuck to his shoe. So you're the young man dating our Monica, he said, not extending his hand. What did you say you do again? I work in tech consulting, I replied, keeping it vague. Teresa appeared behind him, dripping in diamonds. Tech consulting. How quaint. Does that pay well? Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Monica squeezed my hand. Mama, stop. Edward is brilliant. I'm sure he is, sweetheart, Teresa interrupted. Come in, dinner's getting cold. That dinner was torture. They sat me at the far end of their 20-seat dining table. Monica's brother, Brandon, 28 and useless except for his trust fund, kept making jokes about working stiffs and grinding culture. Their younger sister, Simone, 19 and in her 2nd year at Spelman, was the only one who showed me kindness. Don't mind them, Simone whispered when she helped me find the bathroom. They treat everyone like this at first. Well, everyone who isn't country club material. But here's what they didn't know, what nobody knew. 2 years before I met Monica, Fisher Hospitality Group faced bankruptcy. Mismanagement, bad investments, and Jonathan's gambling problem had drained their accounts. They needed $8 million in emergency funding or they'd lose everything. Enter Apex Ventures, my anonymous investment firm. I owned 80% of their company. Jonathan Fisher worked for me, and he had absolutely no idea. Comment: everyone deserves respect if you believe people shouldn't be judged by appearances. I proposed to Monica on a yacht in Miami, 1 year into our relationship. Spent $32,000 on the ring, a princess-cut diamond that made her cry. She said yes before I finished asking. We were supposed to be happy. We were happy, or so I thought. The problems started when we began wedding planning. Monica wanted the ceremony at the Ritz-Carlton in downtown Atlanta. Price tag? $250,000. I didn't blink. But Teresa had other ideas. Absolutely not, she said at a planning brunch. The Fisher name deserves better than the Ritz. We'll have it at the estate. My event planner can transform the grounds into something actually worthy of our family. Our family. Not your wedding or this special day. Our family. Monica looked at me helplessly. Edward, what do you think? I think it's our wedding, and we should decide together, I said calmly. Jonathan set down his fork hard. Young man, when you marry into this family, you need to understand how things work. The Fisher name has been built over 3 generations. My grandfather started with one motel in Savannah in 1958. We don't do things small. I bit my tongue. His grandfather started with family money from real estate exploitation. I'd done my research. But I stayed quiet, nodding politely. That's when Brandon leaned in. Look, Edward, no offense, but you're punching above your weight here. Monica could have had anyone. Doctors, lawyers, old money. You should be grateful she chose you. The table went silent. Monica's face flushed red. Brandon, that's completely inappropriate. Is it though? Teresa set down her mimosa. Darling, we're just being realistic. Marriage is about more than love. It's about building dynasties, securing futures. I smiled tightly. I understand completely, Mrs. Fisher. But inside, something shifted. The breaking point came on a Tuesday night, 3 months before the wedding. Monica and I were supposed to have dinner at my loft in Midtown, a modest place by their standards, though it cost me $800,000. I kept my lifestyle deliberately understated. Drove a Tesla Model 3, shopped at normal stores, lived like someone making decent money, not millions. That evening, Monica's phone kept buzzing. Finally, she picked it up, and I heard Teresa's shrill voice through the speaker. Monica, we need to talk about Edward. Mama, not now. Yes, now. Your father and I have been discussing this, and we think you need to reconsider this marriage. I froze. Monica's eyes went wide. What are you talking about? He's not right for our family, sweetheart. We've done some digging. He doesn't come from anything. His grandmother cleaned houses. His mother was a school cafeteria worker. These aren't our kind of people. My blood went cold. These aren't our kind of people. The words hung in the air like poison. Monica stood up, pacing. Mama, I love him. Love doesn't pay bills, Monica. Love doesn't maintain status. Your father's business is finally stable again, and we need strategic alliances. The Hendersons have a son. You remember Christopher? Harvard Business School, old Atlanta family. That's the kind of match that makes sense. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Monica looked at me, tears streaming down her face. Mama, I'm not breaking up with Edward. I'm marrying him in 3 months. Then you'll do it without our blessing or our money. And you can forget about your position at the company. The line went dead. If you believe families shouldn't control their children's lives with money, like and subscribe, manipulators won't. Monica collapsed onto my couch, sobbing. I held her, my mind racing. Part of me wanted to reveal everything right then, tell her who I really was, what I owned, how her family was only surviving because of my money. But something held me back. Maybe I needed to see how this played out. Maybe I needed to know if Monica would choose me without knowing the truth. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I didn't know they'd go this far. It's not your fault, I said, stroking her hair. But my words felt hollow. Over the next week, the Fisher family launched a full assault. Brandon showed up at my loft unannounced, let in by a neighbor. We need to talk, man to man, he said, pushing past me into my living room. He looked around with barely concealed disgust. This is where you live. And you think you can provide for my sister? I provide just fine, I said evenly. Do you? Brandon pulled out his phone, showing me photos. This is the Hampton estate in Miami. 12,000 square feet. This is where Monica should be living. Can you give her that? I could have bought 5 of those estates without blinking. Instead, I said, Monica's not with me for real estate. Brandon laughed, a cruel sound. You're really naive, aren't you? Let me break it down for you. You're a phase. A rebellion. Monica's always done this, dated beneath her to piss off our parents. But when it comes down to it, she always comes home. She loves the lifestyle too much. His words planted seeds of doubt I couldn't shake. That night, I accessed my Apex Ventures accounts, looking at the Fisher hospitality portfolio. The company was doing better now, projected revenue of 62 million this year. All because of my capital injection and strategic guidance through my appointed board members. Jonathan Fisher truly had no idea who'd saved him. 2 weeks before the wedding, everything exploded. Monica and I were at the Fisher estate for a family dinner, their last attempt to bring me into the fold, as Teresa put it. But I could feel the tension the moment I walked through those marble columns. The dinner table was set formally. Too formally. Jonathan sat at the head, Teresa to his right, Brandon and his wife Ashley across from Monica and me. Simone was notably absent, away at a college event, Monica said, though I suspected they'd sent her away for this. We ate in uncomfortable silence for 10 minutes before Jonathan cleared his throat. Edward, I want to discuss something with you. Man to man, as future family. Here it comes, I thought. I've been thinking about your future with Monica, and I want to help you. I have a position opening up at one of our hotels. Assistant manager at our property in Macon. 45,000 a year to start. Company housing included. It's good, honest work. I set down my fork carefully. That's generous, but I'm happy with my current career. Your current career? Brandon snorted. What is that exactly? You've been vague about it for 2 years. I consult for various tech companies, I said. I do well enough. Well enough isn't enough for our Monica, Teresa interjected. She's accustomed to a certain lifestyle. Shopping at Phipps Plaza, vacations in Europe, society functions. Can your consulting provide that? Monica squeezed my hand under the table. Mama, we've talked about this. No, Monica, we haven't really talked about this. Jonathan's voice turned hard. We've danced around it. But let me be direct. Edward, you're a nice enough young man. But you're not Fisher material. Our family has standards, expectations, a legacy to maintain. What my father's trying to say, Brandon added with fake sympathy, is that maybe you should step aside. Let Monica find someone more suitable. I felt Monica stiffen beside me. The room felt smaller suddenly, the chandelier's light too bright. I looked at each of them, Jonathan with his entitled smirk, Teresa's cold calculation, Brandon's barely concealed contempt. Then I looked at Monica, and my heart cracked. She was crying silently, mascara running down her cheeks, but she wasn't defending me. Not really. She was just sitting there, frozen. Edward, please understand, Jonathan continued, leaning back in his chair like a king on a throne. This isn't personal. It's about what's best for everyone. We'll compensate you, of course. For your time, your emotional investment. How does $50,000 sound? Enough to start fresh somewhere else. They were trying to pay me to leave their daughter. $50,000. The irony was suffocating. I made that in interest every 3 days. You want to pay me to break up with Monica, I said slowly, letting the words hang. We prefer to think of it as helping you transition to a more appropriate relationship, Teresa said delicately. Someone from your own background. You'd be happier, dear. All this pressure of trying to fit into our world, it must be exhausting. Brandon pulled out a check already written. 50,000, right here. Just end the engagement cleanly, no drama. Hell, I'll even write a recommendation letter if you need a better job. That's when I started laughing. Not polite chuckling, deep, genuine laughter that made them all stare at me like I'd lost my mind. Something funny. Jonathan's voice turned dangerous. You have no idea, I managed between laughs. No idea at all. Monica grabbed my arm. Edward, let's just go. Please. No. I stood up, looking at each of them. I think we're done here. Monica, get your things. We're leaving. You're making a mistake, Jonathan called as we walked toward the door. You'll regret embarrassing this family. I paused, hand on the doorknob. We'll see about that. That night, Monica and I had the fight I'd been dreading. Back at my loft, she paced the floor while I sat numbly on the couch. Why did you laugh like that? She demanded. You humiliated yourself. Humiliated us. They tried to pay me $50,000 to leave you, Monica. Like I'm some gold digger they can buy off. I know, and it was awful, but laughing? Acting crazy? That just proved their point that you can't handle our world. Our world. Not my family's toxicity or their classist bullshit. Our world. Is that really what you think? I asked quietly. That I can't handle it. Monica's face softened. She sat beside me, taking my hands. Edward, I love you. But maybe we rushed into this. The wedding's in 2 weeks, and I can't have my entire family boycotting it. My father's threatening to cut me off completely. No trust fund, no job, nothing. And that matters more than marrying me. That's not fair. You don't understand what it's like to lose everything you've known. I've never worked outside the family business. I've never had to budget or worry about money. I don't know how to live like that. Her honesty cut deeper than her family's insults. This was the woman I'd planned to marry, and she was telling me that money and status mattered more than our love. What if I told you money wasn't an issue? I said carefully. What do you mean? What if I told you I had enough money that you'd never have to worry about your family cutting you off? Monica looked at me with something between hope and suspicion. Do you? I opened my mouth to tell her everything. But then her phone rang. Jonathan's name flashed on the screen. She looked at it, then at me, and answered. Daddy? Yes, I'm with him now. I'm working on it. I left the loft that night and drove aimlessly through Atlanta, ending up at my grandmother's old house in College Park. She'd passed 3 years ago, but I'd kept the property, couldn't bring myself to sell it. Sitting on her porch at 2 in the morning, I remembered something she used to say. Baby, people who love you for what you have don't love you at all. They love what you can give them. I pulled out my phone and called Blake Matthews, my lawyer and one of 3 people who knew the full extent of my wealth. He answered on the second ring, sounding alert despite the hour. Edward? What's wrong? I need you to prepare sale documents for my Fisher Hospitality shares. All 80%. I want them liquidated by tomorrow afternoon. Silence. Then, are you sure? That's a $40 million stake, and the company's on an upward trajectory. You could double your investment in 5 years. I'm sure. Find a buyer, I don't care who. Just get me out. This is about Monica's family, isn't it? Blake had met them once at a charity event I'd attended anonymously through a proxy. What did they do? I told him everything, the dinner, the check, Monica's phone call with her father. When I finished, Blake was quiet for a long moment. They tried to pay you $50,000 to leave. He started laughing. Oh, this is beautiful. Edward, I'll have the papers drawn up by morning. And I think I know exactly who to call. There's a private equity firm that's been circling Fisher Hospitality for months. Vulture capitalists who'll strip it for parts. I don't want revenge, I said. I just want out. Sometimes the best revenge is just pulling your support and watching gravity work, Blake replied. By 6 a.m., the papers were ready. By 9 a.m., I'd signed them. By noon, the sale was complete. Apex Ventures no longer owned any part of Fisher Hospitality Group. And Jonathan Fisher had absolutely no idea his entire empire had just been sold out from under him. The call came at 4:37 p.m. I was back at my loft, packing Monica's things into boxes. She'd left earlier to think at her parents' house. My phone lit up with an unknown number. Edward Castillo. The voice was professional, cold. This is Catherine Park from Fisher Hospitality's accounting firm. I'm trying to reach Jonathan Fisher. His phones are going to voicemail. Do you have any way to contact him? Why would I have his number readily available? I asked, playing dumb. We've just received notice that Apex Ventures, our primary shareholder, has sold their entire stake to Meridian Capital. Effective immediately, Meridian is calling in the convertible debt notes. That's $32 million due within 72 hours or they'll begin asset liquidation. Mr. Fisher needs to know immediately. I let the silence stretch. I'm not sure how I can help you. You're marrying his daughter. We thought. Never mind. If you speak to him, please have him call us urgently. She hung up. I sat there, staring at my phone. 72 hours. The debt I'd structured as convertible notes, allowing the company to pay me back slowly or convert to equity, was now owned by Meridian Capital, a firm known for hostile takeovers and asset stripping. They'd restructured the terms immediately, making the full amount due. The Fisher family had 3 days to come up with $32 million or lose everything. My phone rang again. Monica. Edward, something's happening with Daddy's company. He's freaking out. Some investor sold their shares and now there's all this debt due and he can't reach anyone. He's asking if you know anything about tech investors who might help. The irony was suffocating. I don't think I know anyone who could help with that. Please, Edward. I know we fought, but this is my family's entire livelihood. Everything we have is tied up in those hotels. Maybe they should have thought about that before trying to pay me off. Monica's voice turned cold. So this is about revenge? You're punishing my entire family. I'm not doing anything to your family, Monica. I'm just choosing not to save them. The next morning, I woke up to 47 missed calls and 63 text messages. Monica, Brandon, Teresa, even Simone, who'd been pulled into the chaos. The messages ranged from desperate pleas to outright threats. Brandon, if you know anyone who can help, now is the time. We're talking about losing everything. Teresa, Edward, please. I'm begging you. If you have any connections in the investment world. Monica, how can you just sit there and do nothing? I thought you loved me. That last one hurt. But not as much as remembering her saying I'm working on it to her father when he called to see if she'd convinced me to leave yet. I dressed and drove to the Fisher estate. It was time to end this, one way or another. The gates were open, unusual for their normally locked down compound. I parked and walked to the front door, which was also unlocked. Inside was chaos. Papers everywhere, phones ringing, voices shouting from different rooms. I found them all in Jonathan's study, the whole family plus 2 men in suits I didn't recognize. Lawyers. Probably. Jonathan looked up, and for the first time since I'd met him, I saw real fear in his eyes. He was a man watching his empire crumble, and he had no idea the person who could have saved him was standing in his doorway. Edward, he said, his voice hoarse. This isn't a good time. Actually, it's the perfect time. I stepped into the room. We need to talk about Apex Ventures. Monica frowned. Who? The investment firm that owned 80% of your family's company. The firm that just sold to Meridian Capital. Jonathan's face went white. How do you know about Apex Ventures? That's confidential shareholder information. I pulled out my phone, showing them the original investment documents with my signature. Because I am Apex Ventures. I've owned 80% of Fisher Hospitality Group for 3 years. You've been working for me this entire time. Jonathan, every strategic decision, every expansion, every penny that saved your company from bankruptcy, that was my money. The room went completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Monica stared at me like I was a stranger. Brandon's mouth literally hung open. Teresa had gone pale, gripping the edge of Jonathan's desk for support. Jonathan found his voice first. That's impossible. Apex Ventures is managed by anonymous directors appointed by me, I finished. Blake Matthews files the paperwork. I stay completely silent. It's how I prefer to operate. No attention, no recognition, just results. You're lying, Brandon said, but his voice shook. If you had that kind of money, why would you live like you do? Why pretend? Because I wanted to know who really loved me. Turns out, that was the right call. I looked at Monica. Remember when we met? You told me you loved that I wasn't like the rich guys you dated. You said I was real. Authentic. Not obsessed with status and money. Monica's eyes filled with tears. Edward, I didn't know. That's the point. You didn't know, and the moment things got hard, you chose them. I gestured at her family. Your father tried to pay me $50,000 to leave you. You stood by and let it happen. Then you called him later and said you were working on it. Working on convincing me to leave or working on convincing them to accept me. It's not that simple. It really is. I turned to Jonathan. You have 56 hours left to come up with $32 million. Meridian Capital doesn't negotiate. They'll seize the hotels one by one, sell them off for parts. Your family's legacy will be liquidated by Friday evening. Why are you doing this? Teresa's voice was barely a whisper. We're going to be your family. No, I said firmly. You were never going to be my family. You made that clear every single day. The help. Not our kind of people. Not Fisher material. You spent 2 years treating me like I wasn't good enough to breathe your air, and the entire time, I was the only reason you still had air to breathe. Simone spoke up from the corner. Could you help us? Please? I know they were awful, but... I could, I admitted. I could make one phone call right now and stop this. But I won't. Because the first rule my grandmother taught me was that you can't help people who don't respect you. They'll just keep disrespecting you and expecting you to save them. I left the Fisher estate for the last time, Monica chasing after me in the driveway. Edward, wait. Please. We can fix this. She grabbed my arm, mascara streaming down her face. I love you. I made mistakes, but I love you. We can get married, and you can help my family, and everything will be. Everything will be what, Monica? Like it was? With your family treating me like garbage while I bankroll their lifestyle. I gently removed her hand from my arm. You had a choice. Multiple choices, actually. You could have defended me at that dinner. You could have chosen me over their money. You could have loved me for who I was, not what I could give you. I did love you. No. You loved the idea of rebellion. Dating someone your parents disapproved of, playing the independent woman. But when it came down to actually being independent, you folded. 3 days later, Meridian Capital began asset liquidation proceedings. The Fisher Hospitality Group filed for bankruptcy. Jonathan, unable to face the shame, had a stress-induced heart attack, non-fatal, but severe enough to land him in Piedmont Hospital for a week. The hotels were sold at auction. The Buckhead estate went up for sale. The family's fortune evaporated in 72 hours, just like the title promised. Monica called me once more, 6 weeks later. I heard you're seeing someone new. Simone saw you at a restaurant. I am, I confirmed. Her name was Gloria, a software engineer I'd met at a tech conference. She made $65,000 a year, lived in a modest apartment, and had no idea about my wealth. We were taking things slow. Are you going to tell her? Monica asked quietly. Eventually. When I know she loves me and not what I can provide. When I know she'll defend me, not just to strangers, but to the people she loves most. I hope she deserves you, Monica said, and hung up. I sold my loft and moved to Seattle 6 months later, started fresh. Last I heard, Monica was working as a marketing coordinator for a small firm, sharing an apartment with Simone. Jonathan and Teresa downsized to a townhouse in Marietta. Brandon got a real job for the first time in his life. Sometimes I wonder if I was too harsh. Then I remember that night, watching Monica answer her father's call and say I'm working on it, and I know I made the right choice. Love shouldn't require you to prove your worth. Real family doesn't try to pay you to leave. And if someone shows you who they are, believe them, before they cost you everything. If you believe respect and loyalty matter more than money, smash that subscribe button. Only people like the Fishers would skip it. Comment I stand for authenticity if you're on Edward's side, because fake people won't. And if you can't stand entitled families who judge people by their bank accounts, hit that like button. Manipulators and gold diggers won't do it.